From Adrian K91, do you think that if AJ leaves, it will open up more chances for the rest of the division? Well, this was asked a while back, but now it's official. AJ Lee has retired from wrestling. We've been expecting this since last year, but we didn't expect it would happen as random as it did. You expected she would have at least had a significant feud, match, or segment to finish her career off of, but her last match was a random tag match on Raw. But I doubt anyone is going to remember that. Most people are going to remember WrestleMania as AJ's last match, and on that note, I guess you could say it was significant. My only issue with that was, if AJ was going to be on her way out, it would have made more sense if the Bellas had won, to build them up as even bigger heels. That way it would be even more significant when they did get beat, rather than AJ beating them on her way out and taking all their momentum with her. But I am a little disappointed that she didn't stick around until at least Extreme Rules, because her feud with Nikki was starting to catch fire. Now that WWE was finally letting Nikki get her redemption on the mic, she's been killing it. If you watch that WrestleMania Today promo, that was one of the most passionate promos that a diva has ever cut, to where even if WWE helped script every word of that promo, you could tell this was coming from the heart. And I felt like this feud with AJ was really bringing out the best in Nikki. So I feel like there's a lot of wasted potential with that feud, and it would have been a great feud to end AJ's career off of. A feud that goes all the way back to her promo in 2013 and comes full circle today with the useless, expendable model that proved her wrong and became better than she ever was. But to answer the question, yes, AJ leaving does benefit the division. Now people will say, oh no, AJ was the glue that kept the division together. Well, for about 6 months out of the past year, AJ wasn't there and the division managed just fine. In fact, during the first break that she took was the most progressive the division has been in years. And I truly think that if she had not come back, the overall state of the division would be in a much better place. Divas like Summer Rae and Naomi would have been elevated, and we wouldn't have had 5 months of AJ versus Paige dragging the rest of the division down. The issue with AJ is that everything revolved around AJ, to the point where she wasn't helping anyone get over. It was that same John Cena fail Kim effect, so it does help to not have that type of barrier in the division anymore. Unfortunately, Charlotte is going to come up and get that same treatment, and I don't know if I would call that much of an upgrade over AJ. From Chris Santana, who do you think Nikki will drop the title to, and who do you want her to drop the title to? Well, Nikki should have dropped the title to Brie. That makes the most sense from both a storyline standpoint to complete that redemption story from last year, and from a logical standpoint in that you can't think of a more perfect opponent for Nikki to drop the title to than her own sister. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So I think it's safe to guarantee that it'll be either Paige or Charlotte who beats Nikki for the title, unfortunately. But with a champion like Nikki, she can't just drop it to anyone. It has to be significant. And at this point, it seems like the only divas that will get significant enough treatment to become the next champion are Charlotte and Paige. They're doing everything possible to bury Brie right now, and WWE doesn't seem to want to get behind any other diva enough to push them that hard. So at this point, it's like, okay, as much as I'd mark out if they built Summer Rae back up and had her have that feud with Nikki for the title that I've been waiting for, why bother letting her be the one to end Nikki's reign if you know you're just going to hand Charlotte the title a couple months after? Might as well save that title reign for a time when it's going to actually mean something, rather than give them a pointless filler title reign that we're going to regret ever happened. From WWE fan, do you think that Nikki and Brie will ever get to feud again? I was going to say that I don't see them feuding again until at least next year before Brie leaves. But it looks like WWE is already teasing another breakup between them. Now, people like to bury the Bella feud from last year, despite the fact that there was only 2 bad segments in that feud. People overlook how great Nikki's promos were during that feud, and they overlook the fact that the match is actually delivered. So as much as people want to act like this is the worst feud possible, their feud had more advantages than the AJ and Paige feud, and that was supposed to be the feud that resurrected wrestling. However, I don't think this is leading to Brie winning the title, even though that would probably need to happen at this point, considering that they've waited this long to do it, and if it's not leading to that, then I don't know if it's worth doing anymore. Because WWE has taken away a lot of momentum from them as individuals. Brie's basically been a jobber since her heel turn, and that's also dragged Nikki down a little bit from what she should have been. Although recently, things have started to pick up with Nikki getting more promo and match time, so there is still potential there for this feud to work. Unfortunately, they're not going to have as much momentum as they would have had if they didn't get back together in the first place. That's why Brie would have to win the title from Nikki to regain some of that momentum that she lost. Otherwise, I don't know how else a breakup would benefit them at this point. From Raz Van Balanian, do you think Naomi has a chance to win the Divas Championship this year? Even though this question was asked last year, but it's hard to tell, especially because Charlotte is going to debut and win the title this year, and I highly doubt Naomi is going to be the diva that she wins the title from, which would mean that if she does get a title reign this year, it'll be short and transitional, so she can drop it to Paige, who will then drop it to Charlotte, who will then go on a 2-year reign of terror. So either way, it's not looking good for Naomi right now. What Naomi would need is a character revamp, maybe a heel turn, because thinking about it from WWE's perspective, I don't see how this variation of Naomi would fit into the fold as anything other than a transitional champion. Is Naomi overrated? I'd say she's rated just perfectly. It's like this: being overrated means people give you way too much credit in an area that you're not as great as you're hyped up to be, or they put you on this high pedestal that no one else can reach, even if realistically they've already been surpassed. With Naomi, no one is saying that she's God's gift to women's wrestling. Paige. They say that she's a great athlete who's fun to watch and entertaining in the ring. Those are the things that she gets credit for, and those are the things that she's actually good at. From the 2K WWE Crayola, do you think Natalya as a heel gives her a better chance as a contender? At first, I never understood why people wanted Natalya to turn heel so badly. I never thought her heel persona was much of an improvement from her face personality. I mean, if you remember back in the Divas of Doom days, all she did was beat divas up and say, "You wanna cry?" But then I watched her on Total Divas, and the way that she bullied poor innocent Summer Rae and that nagging heel wife angle with Tyson Kidd, I thought to myself, wow, she's such a bitch! Why is this not her gimmick? And sure enough, WWE plays up on her Total Divas personality and gives her a new look, and all of a sudden, she's turned into one of the more interesting personalities on the roster today. So yeah, this heel turn is exactly what Natalya needed to become a more interesting contender. She finally has something that she's been lacking for 7 years, and that's a personality. From Mega King of Shadows, what do you think about the Dollhouse stable in TNA? I think it's interesting. When I look at Mia Yim, Marti Belle, and Cherry Bomb as individuals, I see great wrestlers, but I never really saw much potential for anything special. It was nothing against them, but when you think about it from WWE and TNA's perspective of what they usually do with talent like Mia Yim, who's phenomenal in the ring, but just lacks that certain it factor that typically makes a diva or knockout work, you don't see them being anything other than enhancement talent to make the other girls look good. But it's just like we've always said, sometimes all it takes is a heel turn or a specific gimmick to get you to realize just how great a talent really is. And this is definitely one of those gimmicks. Plus, TNA has been in desperate need of new knockouts for a long time, and a stable like this is a great way to start. It just sucks that Velvet Sky isn't there anymore, because the perfect feud for this team would have been against the beautiful people. From Affinity Skyliners X Forever, what is your opinion on WWE signing Jasmin? For everyone who doesn't know, Jasmin used to be one of us, just a regular fan that came on YouTube to talk about wrestling and meet pedophiles. That's why it's such a big deal that this is the first time that a member of the YWC is gonna make it in the WWE. And that's pretty crazy when you think about it. As for my thoughts on Jasmin as a performer, I went into detail about that in my Knockouts Q&A last year. I think Jasmin has all the bases covered. She's athletic. She has a moveset that fits her perfectly. She has a likability factor that makes her a relatable face, or she can turn the attitude up to become the most obnoxious heel you've ever seen. And she brings something unique, being the first diva to come from the internet era. I wouldn't say she's ready for the main roster just yet. She is still a little bit green, but I'd put her on that same level as Alexa Bliss, where she just needs to work out some of her kinks and get her identity established. And with enough development, she could be an awesome asset to the Divas division in the future. But that just about does it for this week. This has been MTO with the MTO More Reviews, saying yada yada yada, blah blah blah.
You try so hard to be different when you're. I want to say you're such an anti-diva, but are you?